What's up, guys? Welcome back to the doctor's office. I am Dr. K. Knight, here to give you a proper diagnosis and prognosis and everything comics and comic book characters. And look, it's Pride Month, right? And so I could not let you guys go through Pride Month without talking about my absolutely favorite couple in all of comics. Doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what universe it is. Apollo and Midnighter. So this is comic book characters you may or may not know about. So if you do not actually know about Apollo and Midnighter, I would and wouldn't be surprised. I guess it kind of depends on like when you start reading comic books and if you dipped into Wildstorm at all. Because if you kind of just stuck strictly to DC, you may not have actually heard about it. And what actually got me thinking about it outside of it being Pride Month, of course, and reading the DC Pride issue is that James Gunn said that he was going to be doing the Authority, and these two are the fucking staple of Authority, and you would not be able to have the Authority without Apollo and Midnighter. So if they try to do the Authority without Apollo and Midnighter, I'm going to scream. But the way we're going to do this is because their backgrounds are interwoven. They are married, and their backgrounds are very similar, but there are some spots in which they are apart from each other. So I'm going to just try to navigate, their different histories so that it makes sense. Now, only Apollo seems to have kind of a background associated with his origin prior to becoming Apollo. Neither he or Midnighter have any names that are just like, this is such and such, aka Apollo. They have aliases, so it is what it is. But Apollo was a former U.S. Marine, and he was part of a Black Ops Stormwatch team that was so secret that only the first weatherman, Henry Bendix, knew what it was and what they do. And that Stormwatch team was called Stormwatch Zero, and him and Midnighter were a part of it. Both of them were humans that were bioengineered by Bendix so that they could have these crazy powers. So Apollo has powers that are related to the sun, and so he is at his peak power when he is in the sun, when it's a sunny day, or when he has gotten power from the sun. If he's able to get up there and power and charge and come back down, then you're not stopping him in any way, shape, or form. However, when he is depleted of energy, or there is just absolute complete darkness, he is almost next to useless, right? So it's kind of like how Superman works. Superman gets, power from the sun and things like that. However, if you were to place them in an event such as Blood Hunt, where there is no sun at all, and getting to the sun is damn near impossible, they would be basically useless in that fight. Midnighter is the same. It doesn't really say what he did prior to becoming part of Stormwatch Zero, but they were both part of that team, and he was also bioengineered to get the powers that he has as well. And at the end, of course, I'll give you their whole list rundown of fucking powers, because between the both of them, it is a lot. Now, there were 7 members on this team, and they went on their very first mission, and on that very first mission, everybody died except for Apollo and Midnighter. And there was a lot of suspicion around what the hell happened and how it is that their entire team of superpowered bioengineered beings got murdered except for those two. And because of what was going on and the speculations and suspicions and everything happening with all of that, with that first mission, Apollo and Midnighter decided to go rogue basically and leave, and they ended up just doing the vigilante thing for about 5 years, while also trying to figure out what the fuck Henry Bendix's problem was. Now, in 1998, after Bendix had died, Christine Trelane had discovered files that hinted at the existence of Apollo and Midnighter. So at this point, nobody even actually knew they fucking existed. But there were, of course, cases going around with these two being vigilantes and whatnot. So Jackson. I cannot remember his first name. He was battalion, but he became the current weatherman. He was the one who was in charge of this new Stormwatch team, and he had ordered Stormwatch to apprehend Apollo and Midnighter because he wasn't sure if they were heroes or villains. So while they're literally minding their own business, you know, saving people the way that they would save people, they do get attacked by the Stormwatch team while they're trying to destroy something called the Nevada Garden, and it was something that was left over from like a villain called the Engineer. And so Stormwatch goes after them, but they attack Stormwatch as well because they're like, you know, what the hell? And they think that Stormwatch is actually under Bendix's order. But after they figure out, or after they find out that Bendix has died and they are no longer under his order, they do stop attacking. And Christine does give them a life away from Stormwatch, which is exactly what they were wanting. Now, in 1999, Jenny Sparks convinced Apollo and Midnighter to come out of retirement to join a team called the Authority. Now, the Authority is much different than all of the other teams because it does not answer to a governing body or external government or anything like that. So like nobody has control of them that work for the government, nobody in the United Nations, nothing like that. So they were out to do everything they could to better the world on their own initiative. And, you know, it was working. And throughout all of this, it was like their relationship was revealed further. And I think around that time, while they were in the Authority, they also got married. And Apollo had befriended Jenny Sparks and she found it also easier to confide in Apollo. Now, with the Authority, Midnighter was very, very crucial in the defeat of like their first villain, Kaizen Gamora, and I'm pretty sure that's his name. It is Kaizen Gamora. He was the architect of that plan to defeat Kaizen Gamora, and they basically just dropped a 50-mile carrier on top of him and killed him. Mind you, he absolutely loves the idea of not having to answer to a governing body because he loves being a vigilante. And not even gonna lie, the first time he ever met Batman is the funniest shit ever, because you could very much tell that whoever was writing that, you could very much tell that Batman wanted to be like Midnighter in his vigilantism, but he just had this thing of killing people is not the answer, and Midnighter's like, fuck that, yes it is. Now, in 1999, I think it's like December 30th, December 31st, 1999, Jenny Sparks died. And at that exact same time, another child in Singapore was born that had Jenny Sparks' soul. And after she was born, everybody fucking wanted her. So there was this huge fight between all of these different bodies, including the Authority, to get possession of the child. And at some point, Apollo, while they were there trying to do all of that, Apollo ended up getting beaten really bad by this one called the Commander, and the Commander also ended up sexually assaulting Apollo, and Midnighter killed him with a jackhammer. You can imagine how that looks, right? However, there was a guy named Seth Coe who captured everybody except Midnighter. The reason that Midnighter wasn't captured is because everybody thought he was dead, when indeed he is the one who escaped that whole entire situation with baby Quantum to get her to safety and on the Authority side. However, also sometime in between there, before we get to the Seth Coe part, because he also ended up putting a puppet Authority team together with like these replacements after he had captured all of them. And there was a renegade doctor that they were up against, and Apollo fried him to a crisp with his eyes. He was like, you know, I'm sorry, I should never done that. And Apollo was like, sure, I forgive you, and just like fried him. All right, so now Seth Cowie comes in and he defeats and captures the team minus Midnighter, because again, Midnighter had escaped with Baby Quantum, and they are part of the G7 Nations Authority, so they're literally just like a government puppet team. And so after they captured Apollo was basically being used as punching bags, as a punching bag for two of the villains in this situation, Last Call and Teuton. And Teuton is actually the Apollo replacement. Last Call is the Midnighter replacement, right? And so after all of this is going on, and they're basically government lapdogs who do whatever the government says, one of them is about to sexually assault Apollo again. So this will be like the second time that this has happened, just with a different person. So he's about to be sexually assaulted. However, Midnighter comes in and shoots that guy in the back of the skull, and then Apollo fries Last Call's head open, and they, save each other. And after they have killed the entire G7 team, and then they kill Seth Cowie, they leave. That's when they get married, and then they adopt baby Jenny Quantum. So that is how that entire situation happened. Now, after this time, Midnighter did take a more authoritative role in the Authority, kind of like leading the team, but it was kind of like not a normal way of leading, almost. And so he actually got a vision from what seemed to be a future Apollo, basically saying that he was going to become a dictator. And so in order for him to not even cross that kind of path, he quit the team. Him quitting the team caused the team to break up. But not only did he quit the team, he left his husband too. They didn't divorce, he just disappeared and started going on solo missions, which made Apollo have to raise Jenny Quantum by himself. Jenny then took advantage of the fact that she was being raised alone and manipulated her powers to make her grow older into a young adult, so that she could reform the Authority and convince her father to come back and assist. But they all found out that he was being manipulated by Henry Bendix, who was time hopping at this point, although everybody thought he was dead. So the engineer, the new one, was able to break that mind control, and they were able to destroy him once and for all, and everybody was back on board, and the Authority was back together. Now, when I say defeat, this is what happened. They got into a fight with Henry Bendix, and Midnighter ripped out his spine. That's a defeat if you ask me. Now, they also end up, for another time, teaming up with this guy named Kev. Yeah, his name is Kev Hawkins, and he is a raging homophobe. And twice Midnighter specifically has been put in a position where he has to team up with this man. And Apollo obviously doesn't like it, because the first time he ever met them, Kev killed all of the Authority members, right? Including Apollo and Midnighter. And then the carrier ended up bringing them back. Now, they have to work with him a second time, and he's just extremely homophobic. And that's just, and this is where Apollo is so funny to me, because you can kill me as many times as you want to. Being homophobic is a step too far. And they all, after the mission that they had to complete together, they all participated in beating the shit out of that man. I approve. Violence is the answer. Now, I'm not sure if this is the only time. I know this is the first time. Because I haven't seen anything else where they are like this towards each other, but I know that this was the first time. So the US government went and tried to put basically a hit out on the Authority by using an emotional manipulator. And the emotional manipulator basically caused depression and all kinds of things on the team members. And so in a particular instance, Midnighter had kissed another guy, and he admitted this to Apollo. And Apollo got so upset because of, the little manipulator thing that they used on them. He got so upset that he he hit Midnighter in the face through a wall. And they started fighting. This was the first time that they have ever gotten physically violent with each other. I'm not sure if it was the last time. But again, I don't remember anything else. So, we're going to say first and last. I don't know. If you can find it, let me know. But we're going to say first and last. Now, during the wildstorm, it was like a Captain Atom thing. Anyway, Captain Atom had been displaced to the Wildstorm comic universe, and he was definitely a danger to the universe. And the Authority was sent to capture him, and Jack Hawksmoor had given them the order to kill Captain Atom. However, they ended up killing Grifter instead, and brought Grifter's body back to the carrier. When they brought Captain Atom back to the carrier, Captain Atom was pissed, of course, and started to attack them. But when Apollo used his power to hit Captain Atom, it triggered that part of him where he starts to glow, and he's obviously very dangerous. And when Apollo touched him, he literally incinerated instantly into like a black charred skeleton. And of course, that pissed Midnighter off, and Midnighter went to go kill him, and Midnighter ended up dying. And essentially, the whole entire Wildstorm universe got destroyed just so that it could be recreated and everybody be brought back to life. So that's how that situation happened. And here is kind of where they split. So Apollo ended up going to like this utopia place so that he could recharge and just be by himself and think. And Midnighter went on a solo mission. So he actually ended up getting kidnapped by somebody who travels through time. And he goes back to like 1940s Germany, and there is this guy who's asking him to kill Hitler because, if you had a chance to kill Hitler, why wouldn't you? And he kind of agrees, but he ends up getting kidnapped or arrested by the time police, and then he escapes the time police because he's still supposed to go kill Hitler to keep Hitler from doing what he then discovers that the reason that the guy's name is Paulus, he wants him to kill Hitler is so that his ancestor or younger whoever at that time can take over, because he was going to be a better leader than Hitler but still be a Nazi. And he's like, oh, you tried to play me. No. So he actually ends up killing the present version of Paulus to make sure that that shit doesn't happen, that he doesn't come back asking them dumb shit questions like that again. And the time police are like, all right, cool, you didn't change anything, so we're good. Now, at some point, he met someone named Jenny Quarks, who had given him a file basically saying that his original name was Lucas Trent, and that he was from Harmony, Indiana, and that he was, that's where he was from. And because he was trying to find information on himself before his transformation from Henry Bendix, because Henry Bendix, of course, erased everything that was prior to him becoming Midnighter. However, after going through all of the nonsense that she puts him through, he finds out that she falsified those documents. He was never Lucas Trent, and he's never lived there before. But he decides to stay there anyway. Now, during the World's End storyline, this is also kind of where they are still separated. Their storylines are separated. There is this thick smog that covers the entire world, and it prevents sunlight from happening. So again, we're just like the reference from... what the hell did I say? Blood Hunt. It's covering Earth, and there is no sunlight. So he has to stay in the photosphere in order to get the radiation that he needs in order to actually have some kind of power. And so while the team is still needing help, he has to go back and forth between the photosphere and on Earth to assist with the team. But every time he gets down into that environment with the team, that environment saps his powers. So it prevents him from doing a lot of things. He can't fight, and the only thing that he can do is fly, and he can't even do that for a long period of time until he gets to the photosphere. Now, during like this whole situation, at some point he was infected with the Warhol fever, which was like the superpower inducing virus, and he tried to take out the virus by sitting like in the middle of the sun, but all it did was incubate inside his body, call itself the burn, and tried to spread throughout his body and take him over. But he ended up being put in suspended animation so that they could figure out what the fuck to do. And he was then taken out of suspended animation when they were going up against Kaizen again, and he was released inside of Gabora Tower, which was just absolutely pure chaos. And he started fighting everybody, killing everybody, incinerating people's brains, like including Kaizen. Like, it was a lot going on. He was finally healed by his husband, who got an apple from Gaia Rothstein, something like that, and she gave him this apple that cured him. And they ended up going against the Carabim, where we have like the Coda and Zealot and all of them. They ended up going up against them, and this was the first time that he had been around his husband in so long. They hugged for so long because they missed each other, of course. And they were able to, he went up against Sebastian, who was like majestic level, and he got sent out to this like unsunlit place in Wales, but Link had teleported him above the North Pole, where he was directly in front of the sun, so that he could get that sunlight, regenerate, and he came back and defeated everybody. After that, Midnighter and Zealot had this thing where she told him about them using machines to impregnate women so that they could be part of the Coda. And Midnighter was just absolutely disgusted by this, because of course you're taking away people's fucking free will and all this other extra shit. And he's just like, what is wrong with you? And at some point they ended up going up against each other in hand-to-hand combat, or armed hand-to-hand combat as well. And they were evenly matched. And she's like, I'm just going to take my Coda sisters elsewhere. And he was like, wherever you go, I go, because I don't know what the fuck you got going on. And so from that point on, Apollo and Midnighter were just together. And when you do see them in stories, they are in stories together. So, and I'm going to just show a list of their powers versus writing that shit down. So you will see their list of powers, just because both of their powers are very long. I am very excited. I love both of them. Again, they are my favorite comic book couple, period. Like, it doesn't matter what universe. And everybody else that are comic book couples, just compete for second, because they are one of like the best couples. They've been together honestly for so long, and they've been through so much absolute bullshit together that it is insane. So if you have not read anything, they do have like a series together, the Apollo Midnighter series, and they do have like series apart. So they have like the Apollo series, the Midnighter series, definitely Midnighter series. So I need more of them. And again, you can't have the Authority without having Midnighter and Apollo. So if he's going to be doing the Authority, I just hope he gets somebody absolutely fantastic for Midnighter, because Midnighter is talking to some people who do know, they were like, I expected Midnighter to be a lot like Batman, and he's definitely not. Definitely not. He's definitely a brooding type, right? But when he's around his man, he is so softy. That's why if you saw the short of the DC Pride issue, they are in it together, and he is encouraged. He is so violent. He's so happily violent, kind of just like a younger Wolverine, super happily violent, and just everything that goes on there. So I really do hope that they do more with them in the comic books, as well as putting them in the movie, because the Authority is definitely one of my favorite teams. So, but that is it for this episode of the Doctor's Office. If you haven't gotten the book, get the book. If you haven't heard Ghastly Gospels, go listen to Ghastly Gospels. And also make sure you're looking out for the Doctor's Office podcast, of course. If you haven't listened to any of the episodes, because I know there's not any new episodes yet, but if you haven't listened to any of the episodes, go listen to some of the episodes, because they're awesome. And then, of course, I do have Salt Blood that is coming out July 4th, so be ready for that. as well. And you can go to my shadow library to kind of just like look stuff over. Anyway, that is it, and I will see you guys at your next checkup.